o'clock, and I will call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present, and we'll do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, 2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Do you guys have anything?
I do not.
Okay. 3.0, correspondence and public comments. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. I see we have a bunch of new folks on our Zoom as well, and so I'll just state for the record that we're very informal here. And so as we move through the agenda, if somebody wishes to make a comment as we go, we're always open to hearing feedback or questions as we go. So for now, folks who are on Zoom, you can either unmute if you dialed in, it's *6, or the lower left-hand side, there's an unmute button. Any public comment? All right.
I have a public comment and I don't know how to do it. My name is Shannon Osmond.
Hi, Shannon, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure where it could be addressed in the court hearing. I'm upset with the OICC program at this time for a number of different reasons, but my last reason is Teddy Fennerin changed my daughter's W-4 without our consent. We had done Abigail's W-4 for the work crew here in Arlington, and we decided to have her pay taxes. We want her to learn what it's like to receive a paycheck, what it would be like to pay taxes, and file taxes. We did not file exempt. When we received her paycheck over the weekend, the county did not take out any taxes. I contacted Ellen in the auditing department. She said she'd look into it. I got an email from Teddy yesterday, and she did state that she changed Abigail's W-4, that she did put exempt on her paperwork. I asked for a copy of her paperwork, and she did send that to me. And her father and I are extremely unhappy that happened without our knowledge.
Shannon, thanks for your feedback. If you could, I would like our Chief of Staff, Lisa, to follow up with you. Can I give you a phone number and you could, she's sitting next to me during this meeting, but after the meeting, could you give her a call?
It might be tomorrow morning. I am going to be leaving after this meeting. I have a lunch date out of town with my sons, and I don't know what time I'll be back.
So if it works better, you can even call her tomorrow. I'll just give you the main court line, and Teresa's the one that normally picks up, but she can find Lisa for you.
Give my diary.
Do you have
that? Sounds good. Thank you.
Shannon, hi, this is Lisa. If you would like to call, do you have a pen and paper handy?
I do, yes.
541-384-2161 is my direct line.
Okay, 384-2161.
Yeah, just call at your convenience whenever works for you and we can chat.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Court, for your time.
Hey, Shannon. Any other public comments? If not, let's go into correspondence. I just wanted to note that we received a letter from the Department of Revenue Property Tax Division, and apparently our assessor is doing his job well. He is doing his job. That the department's mass appraisal review team has completed its required review of our assessor certified ratio study report and accepts its findings. So they had sent that to us as an FYI, and so I just wanted to make that part of the record. If you want to read the full letter, which is a couple paragraphs, It's on the county court's website under our agenda packet. Let's go into consent agenda.
Okay, I have a comment on the minutes that I do not believe that, at least I sure didn't mean it if I said, and I did not go back to the video to check it, but it was on the IGA with the court.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta find it. That I had. Yeah, I got it. The court discussed, let's see, legal counsel, Commissioner Shannon would like to allow for more leeway for future projects. I'm sure I didn't say leeway, but the intent was that I would like to see the court and the court work together on future projects. It doesn't have anything to do with leeway. It's just going forward, this being an example of what the court and the court could do together on future projects to team together. Was my intent.
Okay,
I think
so
that's what I said. I didn't look at the video.
so could it be edited? The court discussed the suggested changes by legal counsel. Commissioner Shannon would like
Would
this to be a basis for future projects?
yes. And then on just, and this is more of a question than anything else, but I noticed on the Gilliam County Local Public Safety Coordinating Council,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the chart of members on that council, there's no representation really from Arlington, at least at the city level. I was wondering if anybody knew why. I suspect, but does anybody know why?
That would be a question, I think, for Chris Fitz.
I can follow up on that. It looks like, I mean, we got Lonoc on there, Condon with Catherine, but there's really no specific city type representation.
Yeah, from Arlington, I see that.
Well, we can guess what.
It looks like those are required by statute though, so I wonder if maybe it's just missing.
Yeah, I don't have a clue. It's just something I picked up on when I went through the consent agenda.
Okay, so
Hate to mess the consent agenda up, but just
I think what we could do is just say, if we wanted to approve the consent agenda, are you okay with the actual grant application for the lipstick one? It's just a
Yes.
question on the
question on
Arlington.
the organization.
Okay, so I think on the
separate thing.
on the consent, we could just say that we would be amending, so it would be the regular meeting minutes as amended, if you guys are okay with that.
Yes.
And then we could just do one motion that combines the both of them, I think. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. I move to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to the minutes.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda with the amendment to the minutes. The consent agenda consists of consider approval of July 21st, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Again, those are as amended, and consider approval of letter of support for the Lipstick Justice Reinvestment Grant application. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go into 5.1, which is discussion and possible action on the Woolery Special Projects Grant application. I will just kick it off while you gentlemen are coming up here, but feel free to come up. As you guys remember, during our last meeting, we reviewed the fiscal 21-22 special grant applications and awarded most of those at that time. We, at the time, decided to table the Woolery's request so that we could gather some additional information regarding finances and their application. So they are here to talk to us.
I'm Rod McGuire. I'm the president of the Woolery. And I want to thank the court at this time for giving me this opportunity to be here. I'm very excited over my presentation. I was going to do this before COVID hit. So you guys have kind of remotivated me to get this going. I got a lot of material for you guys. I don't trip and fall.
The ocean would approve our quote.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And there's one more, so don't go away.
Okay.
These are hot off the press.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna touch on a lot of things, and if you guys got pins and stuff, you want to take notes, and I want to accept any questions from the group. I'm very passionate about what I'm talking about. I'm pretty nervous, and I can't shake my nerves yet, but anyway, I will.
But we're all friends.
I know, but I've been wound up for a couple hours.
Relax.
I'm trying. So if I beat around the bush a little bit, I don't mean to, but I got a lot of notes, and I got another 14 pages of notes back there, but I just need these. I want to start out with the card that you guys already have. This pretty much sums up what we are and what we're doing. So you guys have that card with you. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I feel we're more than just another building. We're part of many, many communities. We do a lot of things in other communities, and that will be right here. This shows all the things we did up to 2018. And then I got the new stuff on there that we've done in the last few years. We did a country cowboy experience concert in Pendleton, Oregon with Joni Harms. We've done our Oktoberfest even during COVID. We do a hootenanny in Sherman County, and I want to explain that. So the Sherman Athletic Club, athletic people contacted us and asked us if we do a mini Woolery or Oktoberfest for their crab feed. And we agreed to do it. And the community, some of the community thought we was getting away with the crab feed. We did have meals because we were asked to because we had alcohol. I had to explain it to people when they came. The crab feed asked us to be here because there's no bar in Sherman County anymore, except for the Rufus. So they needed somewhere for people to go because they set up 400 chairs and they have to sell those chairs 2.5 times. So they had to get people up and out of there to go somewhere. So we set up at the Wasco Grade School in the gym and had a bar, and you'll see pictures of it when we get to the end. But I thought that was pretty neat because we was able to do awareness for the Woolery, and we were well supported with that. So we're getting to be part of, and I'll go on with other opportunities that we got coming on. So that's just part of it. I got to meet with Ted Kulendowski a couple of times down at Cottonwood Park, and he wanted to know about the Woolery, and I explained it to him, and his words were, you're not only building a building, you're building a community. And he wrote that down for me, and I can't find it. Now I want to talk about old Arlington. This picture fascinates me. This is back in 1886. 1881 was the first house. A little after that, the first store went up, and that was by J.W. Smith. This is quite a town already, and these buildings are bigger than they look because those are railroad cars back there in the back, and they look like miniature cars. I brought my club. This picture's cool because this is where they must have watered the stock because there's a wide trail bore there. Everything had to be coordinated. So I can imagine sheep up on the hill, cattle up on the hill, horses up on the hill. They brought horses in by the thousands because they were selling them to the cavalry. If you've ever read the book with Art Seal, he was breaking 1,000 horses a month at his peak. So they were selling a lot of horses. But look at the lumber, how much lumber that went up, how that had to be freighted in. Think of the firewood, that there's no wood, there's no electric stoves. Look at, this must be a livery stable in the middle, and the amount of hay they must have went through for the freight teams. It just, the picture's fascinating to me, and there's a boat they must have towed up here with a team of horses. But what I'm getting to in this picture, they had to work as a team. Nobody built this by themselves. They also had a skate rink. I read about they used in 1885, so it's got to be in this picture. That must have been their Woolery, where they had big meetings, because you just don't slap a town up in 4 or 5 years without having a plan. But it's just a fascinating picture of how they built that so fast. 4 years' time. And then this was the second most important port, except for the Dalles on the river. So I do a lot of reading and research, and I'll get to that at the end too. But I'm kind of the Arlington historian dude. I tried to get on the board up here with the Historical Society, and I didn't get on yet, but I eventually will. But I know a lot of the history. And we'll get to that, after a while. So it's, if you have questions, tell me what you want to hear and I'll try to answer it. But the town was pretty prosperous. Oh, there's more notes. The town was this is 1939. And it just shows part of the port area, but it's pretty fascinating too, but you can't quite see them. But in the background, Arlington had huge hotels, and that's the Main Street back in there. And a lot of cool businesses. Let's see what this is. Yeah, so there had been a lot of coordination with buildings and stock watering and shipment of cattle and sheep. And so somebody had to be the coordinator in this town. And that's just fascinating to me, who and how they did that. Okay. This is the 40 acres that's been given to us by the city of Arlington. It's right here. And what we're proposing is the 9 acres on the level ground on top that separates the bluff from us is where the Woolery will go itself. So I'm just showing you what we got going on. And I may have to go to my notes once in a while. This is work that we've done. This is the airport right here. As you can see, we developed and weatherized the road. It's all gravelled. And this is the pad that we set our tent on. And in your packet states how much work we've done with Anderson and Perry, and it's up to date about $5,000. I think they states in there we need about $8,000 more with the work. And he's working on our site plan as we speak. I talked to him just 5 minutes before I got the pickup to come here. So it's all in that packet. Then I want to explain the financial part a little bit. I'm not going to my notes too much, but the financial part it's in your packet. It's all broke down in 2019. We didn't do a good job with 2020 because I asked them to calm it down because our first bill with Barnett and Morrow for 2019 was $3,500. 2019 was a bad year for us. If you guys want to create a windstorm, just set up a giant tent on top of that hill. We had 70-mile-an-hour winds that day. It took the tent down the next day. The tent was 120 by 80, and it took up that whole pad. So when the windstorm came, we got trailers and pickups and cars and ratchet strapped everything down, and it was moving the trailers and the pickups and the cars, and it broke the straps. And it was damn scary. I was a nervous wreck that day. I evacuated the tent, had everybody get out at one time, and the winds did calm down a little bit later in the day, and we went ahead with our event after we got it secured. But it was, my main concern was somebody getting hurt. And the next day the tent did go down. You can see the brush clearing that the board did right there. We cleared that for parking. You know, like I said, Rick Watkins gave us, he just donated about half the cost. So he only charges for half of what he wanted. And I think it was close to $5,000. So as you can see, the Woolery has been busy. This is the airport. I'm happy that Catherine's on the port board. I'm hoping, I think one of her first things she wants to try to get done is pave that runway. As you can see, that's the end of the runway, and it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to the Woolery. So eventually maybe we could have fly-ins. People could meet there, corporate people could come in, and it would be, you know, beneficial to everybody.
The road just one way.
It's just a narrow road. You'd have to get over, you know, it's all, you'd have to get over to pass, but that was just to weatherize the road in case we had troubles at Oktoberfest.
Just in case there was rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was rain a little bit the day before, I think. So I'm pretty proud of what we done, and we tried to showcase that with the, you know, of course we had the windstorm, but this side of the tent was all open, not open, but clear plastic, so people could look out and look at the view. Okay, this is the entrance that I built for the Woolery, and I had a sign up there and it blew down. This is the view from the tent or the Woolery. This will be out the window. This is the entryway, and then I put home of the Woolery, the gathering place, and with the 70-mile-an-hour winds, it tore it down. But we'll put it back up eventually. But this is a great view of the river. You can see on a clear day, you can see Mount Hood and part of the other mountains. And then if you look off to the south, you can see the Blue Mountains and mainly what Gilliam County stands for. You can see the wheat fields, you can see pasture ground. On a clear day, you can see a long, long ways. My idea with these horse feeders was the day of the Oktoberfest, I was going to have fresh flowers in them, but didn't work out. I had the flowers and paid for them, but didn't work out. So when we talk here, if you want me to go back to something, I'm excited to go back. I'm trying to not look at my notes too much. I do want to talk about my board. I want to introduce my board, which is important to me. Is Julius Courtney is right by my side. Wade Johnson's from Arlington. He's been active with us since the beginning. Scott Thompson is from the Dalles. He does all of this kind of work. Tracy Huffman is from Hermiston, and she's very powerful for us when we're setting up for different events. She does all the decorating and placing of things. So every one of my board members brings something important to the table, and we work off of each other. So I just wanted to thank them for being on the board, and this board never gives up. When COVID came along, I thought, I'm getting emotional. I thought they quit, and they were powerful. They said, we're not quitting for nothing. And sort of made us keep going on. And that's why we're going on, and that's what it's important to me. Sorry about that. I didn't think that would happen.
Happens to me all the time.
Let's see what's next. Woolery project timeline. We held our first informational meeting, town hall style, with food back in 2015. People, that's when we first heard about the Gronquist building. We never even heard a word about it. And that's when that started. They tried to get us shut down because they wanted to build their building, and I had no idea of it until that day. We had to borrow to get started $5,000 from a friend to hire an attorney, and we had several things in mind to get done, getting our funds and hiring Barnett Morrow, and then we also set up, Tunis Wires helped us set up for our 510c3. That 510c3 took us a couple of years to get. We got turned down a couple of times, and they wouldn't tell us what they needed to see in each application. So that took a lot of time, Washington, D.C., back and forth. And if it wasn't for, his name is Rick Stoddard, that did our work, and that's all he does with Barnett Morrow's 510c3s. He's never been turned down for, we made him famous because he's never been turned down for one until we came in. So we kept working at it till we got it, and that was a pretty proud day. And I think, I don't know what, we got it on a date. Maybe it's on this thing. We made several attempts with City of Arlington to get the property we wanted. And when we did get the property, the city council was probably split on the Woolery. And now they're 100% buy-in, but they said, we'll give you the property, but you'll never get it zone changed. And with the help of Anderson and Perry, we did a lot of work on that and got the zone done. So we're all ready to go with that. We hired Jeff Schott in the beginning to do work on the zoning, and that didn't work out for it. He wanted quite a bit of money that we didn't have, so we moved on to Anderson and Perry, and they did it. You know, I think we got the zoning part done for about $600. I don't remember exactly. Then we hired Eastern Oregon Business Source to help us create a business plan and a strategic plan, and we have that. Maybe Joey's brought it with him, but it's not important right now, but we did make a plan, and that cost us quite a bit of money. And then we hired Brad Baird at Anderson and Perry to help with the zoning. We talked about that. And tonight was going to be city council in Arlington. It was going to finalize our road easement. It was supposed to be signed by me and everything taken care of, but they're canceled the meeting for tonight, and it's going to be next week. We hired Cora Davidson Consulting to write grants and our applications and proposals. I didn't bring their information with me, but they're in alignment with a whole bunch of grants that they're applying for. Of course, we got the road easement done. We got the water to the property. The city of Arlington put water to us for $1,000. And Brad Bard's currently working on the site plan, and all that information is in that. Any questions so far?
I don't have any.
Okay, I got a lot of stuff. I want to talk about the Gronquist building versus the Woolery a little bit, and this is not to be mean or rude or anything. I just want to share facts that I see. I'm not here to do judgment, but these are things that I think. The Woolery is going to be a majestic building with character and charm, an open layout, fully flexible for any occasion, one room that can be divided with rolling dividers. Now, when we do all these things in our committee meetings and our board meetings, I have large chalkboards, and I call it the cowboy iPad. I think Pat's even seen it. And we wrote down everything we want to see in the Woolery. So it's not like we're just jumping out and pushing things together. Everybody gets a chance at their input. And our plans is I have a walking history trail on the bottom 31 acres. Internal access to upper level. That's one. I got to tell a story about the Gronquist building. Don Anderson, you know, when he passed away, there's probably 500 people that attended the funeral. And it was like the second time the building was going to be used. I used it, I cooked for a windmill group for the very first time. And I wanted to watch this because most people were elderly or retired people, because the funeral was on a Monday. And I go, oh my God, where's everybody going to park? And so I just followed and watched. And then, so the poor little, it was raining hard that day. The little old ladies were there was no place to park, so they had to park over there where the Watco building is now. Well, the ladies' high heels were sinking in the mud. They were having a heck of a time, and they're in their dresses and stuff. And most of them, like I said, are kind of half crippled and getting there. Well, I call the Gronquist building a confused building because people are confused when they get there. They go rattle the bottom doors and it doesn't open. And so they got to figure out how to get in. So I call it the devil's staircase. All them old people had to go up that steep set of stairs. And it was I just kind of followed along behind, but those kind of people can only go 3 or 4 steps and they got to stop and take a break. So it took them a long time to get into the building. So they either had to go around and go in the top door or go up those steps. So that was kind of hardship. Then the caterer for that event was Ann Mortar from over by Ione. And I know her, and she's related to Catherine Griner, I'm sure. I offered to help her and she says, no, I got this. And I said, I think you're gonna need my help. And I said, you tell me what to do and I've worked here once already. It gets concentrated there, you can't get through there. And I said, you're thin, you can get through that crowd, I can't. But she was just making trays of food. And I said, you take the food out and you tell me what you want done and I'll do it. Well, she took her first tray out. She goes, I see what you're talking about. She said, I can't hardly get through. And so I helped her there, the rest of the day, and she thanked me really well. Anyway, we'll have a large of the heritage section. I'll get to that here pretty soon too, for local history, including the displays. I'm gonna talk about that right now. Every year we choose a heritage family. This takes an amazing amount of time. And we do this and do a little history piece on them. And that's kind of what we do every year. This year we've chose the Shaw family. Here, I can't hold up. So, this is what we're doing with all of these will hang in the Woolery when it's done. I'll just talk about it now. So when I first wanted to do the Seal family, Sam turned me down. He said, no, I don't want to do it. And I said, that's too bad. And I started mentioning his family, what they've done and been. And he goes, how do you know so much? And I said, I read about it. And he goes, I changed my mind. I do want to be part of it. So that's the way we did that one. And I had to go out there several times, and it takes Sam a long time to warm up, but when he does, you got to hang on because he talks and talks and talks. And then I had to go back a couple times to get it finalized because so many people have written about the Seal family and made stuff up, and he didn't like it. So he helped put all this together. So that was kind of fun. J.W. Smythe, he's a Smith. He's quite a character in his day. He platted the town. He thought the town was going to be on Willow Creek. They called that Willows. Arlington was Sand Canyon. So JW missed it. People started gathering at Sand Canyon and he was in Willows. He built a raft out of driftwood. It's in this same deal there. He built a raft out of driftwood, put all the stuff for the store on the raft and drifted down the river and missed it. He missed it by 2 or 3 miles, 4 miles. And the next day, people come and helped him drag his stuff up to where Arlington was going to be. So it's a pretty fascinating story. He started the first store. He made a fortune. He had $500,000 and he moved to LA. And we tried to find family members. We heard of a grandson, but I was never able to get a hold of him yet. But it's a pretty fascinating story. And like I said, he must have had foresight of all this stuff, what was going to happen. So I think the rail, well, the first things that were shipped to Arlington was wool. And they happened to wave over a stern wheeler. And there's pictures of it, of them getting the sacks out to the stern wheeler, but they had to make planks out to it to get the wool on the stern wheeler. That picture is in the Woolery booklet. So we have fun putting this together. We've done the Smythe family. When we talked about the Smythe family, they had no idea they were one of the largest sheep ranchers in the country. Old Grandpa Smythe sold 10,000 lambs one year, got the highest price ever, and he's one of the biggest sheep ranchers in the country. But the grandkids didn't know any of this stuff. So that was kind of fun to do. Then we did the Cecil family, which Ron Cecil was part of, and of course Cecil's over at Cecil, and that thing was kind of started in 1860. The Woolery will be self-sustaining through rental income and our signature events. We do Oktoberfest dinner and auction. We do a Springfest flower sale that is huge. Now we sold 200 hanging flower baskets. And when the Arlington sale was over, we had about 10, 12 left over. I took them to Sherman County, put it on Facebook, and the little ladies were waiting there in line and ready to club each other to get a basket. So next year we could even increase it more by going to Sherman County. We do a Woolery open golf tournament. We didn't do it this year because of COVID, but we should have done it because the golfers never did quit during that. We just did, Condon Chamber reached out to the Woolery. Want to know if we do their 4th of July pancake or their breakfast, and we did. I was approached, Leah Shannon has been heading up this revitalization program in Arlington, and I did a talk on it, but I was approached after that meeting that some people want to bring back Aluminum Man and want to know if the Woolery would take that on. And it requires golf shooting and horseshoes. And then we're thinking about when the Woolery is done, about doing a Pioneers Days event. So we have a lot of things going on, and the Booster Club has also turned the Arlington crab feed over to us, so we could do that. But the crab is hard to get last year. We had COVID and we didn't even attempt to do it. This is just a picture of some of our events. This is our golf tournament. This is probably the first tent we used on the peninsula. This is Springfest. This is Oktoberfest. Golf tournament again. Each year we did do the golf tournament. It's been almost sold out. This is how we operate our flower sales. We just park down there and flowers on trucks and trailers, and here they come. I think we netted $4,000 on the flower sale this year. This is the Oktoberfest, and you can see our auction items on the wall behind there. This is the Hootenanny in Wasco, and we set it up kind of in the same style. And this is us participating in the Christmas parade in Condon. That little building was parked up there on the bluff, and the wind took it down this spring, made pretzels out of it. Well, I didn't refer to my notes much, but I probably forgot some stuff. But I think I'm about half caught up if you guys have questions.
So Rod, why don't you talk to us about your application itself? What is the money, where are you in terms of actually putting up the building? What are you hoping this money will cover?
Okay, we can do that. Mainly it's going to go for the site plan and professional work. We still owe money to how we operate our business. We treat the Woolery as a business. We have about $9,000 in our account. We don't have the bills with us, but we do owe Anderson and Perry, as you see again, and they just continue to work. And we pay. What we do is we pay like $1,500 every time we do an event. if we make money. So we just got done paying Anderson. That's what it says in there, we're ahead. And then we pay Barnett and Morrow the same way, either $1,000 or $1,500. So we're constantly accumulating professional bills, and that's what the money's intended for. You know, for just keep going. The last thing we got to do is the site plan. So the site plan, I believe, when it's done, then we have to go in front of the county planning again, and I believe that comes with $1,000 fee. So that's what we're working towards right now. He's working on the site plan as we speak. We were going to meet today, but because he comes to Arlington every council meeting, and it's canceled, so I won't see him till next week. But the money, I thought maybe it was stated in what we were using it for.
Yeah, it is, but I think just sort of describing like where you are, I think helps kind of capitalize.
But the two things I'm wanting to get done next, and when we work we have a regular office, so Woolery does. And I have a flip chart going in there constantly, drives probably these guys nuts. On our next project, what we need to get done next. And, you know, the next thing to do is a site plan and the business plan. The business plan is partially done. I want to get with Barnett and Morrow. Dennis Barnett is my accountant, and he's really good. And I want to sit down with him and make sure the business plan is proper. But we've already worked on a partial. I got to tell some more stories. Joyce and I went to Winthrop, Washington. I've been 3 times, I think. Joyce has gone twice. There's a barn up there similar to what it's in the book, similar to what we're wanting to do. And Julius, probably 10 years ago, because he's been listening to me drive around in the pickup, what I was kind of intending on this Woolery thing. He called me up. He said, Rod, I just heard on the radio they're doing a fundraiser at some barn in Washington. And he told me about it, and I looked it up, and sure enough, they were having a fundraiser to buy hay for the deer that were starving to death because they had a fire and burn up all the feed. And it was winter time, and they needed to raise money. Well, I was busy cooking that day, and I couldn't go to that function. I wanted to. So Joyce and I loaded up and went up there and talked to those people and looked at their barn, and it was fascinating. It's in a small town, probably the size of Condon, and it's kind of at the end of the road. It's on the, what do you call that river, Julius? The Mouthal or?
Yeah, Mouthal.
Mouthal River. Beautiful place. And they used to have a Quonset hut, and that was their gathering place, and it burnt down. And all the farmers got together and ranchers and built the Winthrop barn. It's called the barn. And we got to tour it, and I said, Julius, this is just outstanding. Whoever designed this did it. They got everybody in mind. Like, it's set up for the cook, it's set up for this. They got a stage, they got everything they need, and they're doing exactly what we're trying to do. So, and I said, Julius, I've never been, except for old range halls, I've never been in one that was set up as good as this. You know, you come in the back door, there's a pantry, then there's a kitchen area, and it's a wonderful kitchen to work in. I would like to go back and tour it again as we get closer. But the farmers and ranchers, that building was so important to them that they just put it together. So somebody must have been a good electrician, somebody was a good designer, somebody, I've got to tell another story with that. When we toured the building, there's a bunch of little old ladies in there knitting and making quilts and stuff. And they're called the Stitching Bitch. And they meet every week on a Wednesday or whatever the day is. And they just sit around in a room like this and talk and sew and knit. And so Julius and I went to dinner that night in the bar, and those same little old ladies came in there for dinner, and we're having dinner too. And we told those old ladies that was pretty cool. And she goes, that ain't nothing. We have a coloring book we're doing too. And they showed us our coloring book and all the cool things they do and all the events that they have there. And they do, what's that Irish Days? I'm drawing blank, but you know, March 17th, they have that event, and they do lots of plays. In the beginning, when I was doing this, I wanted to produce a play, and it's just hard to find the time and, you know, kind of get a play going. And I already bought all the play and the books and all that. And they do plays there and concerts. And it's just a fascinating building, and it's just well used, and they have a lady that runs it, and she's on part-time. She works like 2 or 3 days a week, answers the phone, and then the rest of the time the building is, closed. But
So Rod, we're gonna need, you got in your, current action plan funding needed, and you've got specific Anderson variable produce site plan, structural engineering, and building plans, 7,700. Sure easement acquisition fee 6,000, request 2,275, and that just, can you kind of explain those numbers so we can understand where you're going with the grant money? Because I mean, we got taxpayer money, we need to be able to explain what we're doing.
So what's it say, Pat? Could you run that by me
So it's
again?
contracting the engineering firm to develop and fulfill the site permitting and land use approvals, which I think some of that's already done. Specifically, Anderson Perry will produce a site plan and structural engineering of the building. I don't know if you've got structural engineering done in the building. Plans for 7,700 for sure easement acquisition for a fee of 6,000. Requesting 10, and there's a 25% match in that.
Yeah.
I think the original grant's like 13,000 something. So what we're working towards, when we've been paying on it, like I've explained, but we're still moving forward with the site plan. And probably the time that the grant was written, we've probably written another check for $1,500 because we did our flower sale. And the girls were working on that grant fairly early.
So can you give us a verbal justification of why you're at financially where you're at based on 7 or 8 years of where you've been, and now you've had struggles, I guess, having successful fundraisers.
Correct. I want to talk about that. 2019, it broke us. We were down to a couple $100. But we were able to pay everything up except for Anderson and Perry and Barnett. We had a total loss with the event up there because not many people came to it with the windstorm. So, but we were able to pay our bills, but we were at ground zero. So then that's when the hootenanny came along, and we raised about $4,000. It got us going again. And I hope I'm answering your question. Probably not. But
Oh, you're helping.
I'm like a politician, maybe.
You're helping out. I mean, we have to be able,
I want you to. We're very transparent.
And then I had the question on, and I don't know if you come up with an answer for it, but when I went through the checkbook, there was 23,000 on that 10th that year. And it just,
That's in that booklet. It shows the breakdown of the checks that went out. Evidently, that $10,000 check was voided because the $8,000 check is in there and the $2,700 for the down payment.
So talk to us about, one of the things that I think we've talked about and have some concerns about is just making sure that this is not, I'll just lay my cards on the table.
I want you to.
My concern is that this,
all of us should think.
this is a stepping stone to having the county basically pay for this whole building.
No.
And I just want to be clear, like, I think that's been sort of my concern, is that I love the passion that you guys bring to it. I love that you're doing these events and hustling and all of those things, but this is going to be an expensive building. You're not going to get there with fundraisers of $3,000 or $4,000. And so what I'm interested, I don't want the county to sort of be dripping into a building because we look back and say, and at this point we've invested a little over $40,000 by supporting tents and things like that. I don't want to get, another 3-4 years down the road and look back and say, hey, we've invested now almost $100,000 and we don't have a building because we don't have the rest of the funding secured. So I'd like to hear sort of where you are in raising the big money.
Okay, but I didn't bring that with me, and I don't
I'd like
know.
to know how much the big money is. Do you have an estimate of what?
Yeah, and I don't have that with me either. I've been trying to make a living plus put this together, and I didn't bring everything, but I could get that back to the court. The building that we're looking at, the thing I seen was a little over $1 million. And of course, that's probably gone up now because of the cost of lumber. They did send us, I did get that information. I just didn't bring it with me. Sorry about that. What was the other question?
So your fundraise, like where's
Okay.
the money gonna come from to pay for it?
Well, once we get a little bit further, we're open at the grants, other grants besides here, but we have to get to a part. You know, the site plan has to be done before anybody's gonna fund us. And once the site plan is done, then the property becomes ours for sure. But right now, it hasn't been totally signed over yet because we haven't had a site plan. It's been voted on by city council and all that stuff, but it hasn't been until these projects are completed. We can't. No Ford Foundation is gonna look at us till everything's in order. That's what I'm getting to.
I think some of the concerns that I've heard, and people, trying to weigh in on our making a decision is we've had empty buildings and they're concerned that the county's gonna help pay for another empty building. And, we don't want to do that. And we don't, I mean, if you put your effort and all the time and energy and passion that you guys put into this, people are concerned that if it doesn't work, then we have another empty building.
Well, they kind of answered that with all the signature events we got going on. That's just them not counting the weddings. Another thing I'd like to clear up is people think we're building a building for Rod McGuire, and that's not true at all. I'm 65 years old and thinking I'm kind of in retirement now. I've downsized my business to just doing small events that I can handle on my own. I'm no longer going to be the big event guy. Maybe locally here at the 4th of July, but that, I'm not going to travel out to do big events. I got some on the books this year, big, and I've told, and getting back to Paradise Rose, that was mentioned that maybe I'm gaining some things with that, with my business. That's not true at all. I do things that cost for less. I don't even get the price of my meat. I get scolded by him and most of my board members because I don't ask for enough. So we usually have a plate charge and it's all in our minutes. It's either $10 a plate or $15, and that's all I take. And so I'm never in that part to make any money. But I got to tell some fun stories just from the last couple of days. The Klickitat County Fair called me. I do Morrill County Fair already. They've had me probably 4 or 5 years now. And they couldn't get anybody to their kickoff event, but 50, 60, 70 people. So they hired me to come over and cook the first year, and probably 300 people showed up. Changed the whole thing around. So Paradise Rose is kind of a draw. That's what I'm getting to. So Klickitat County called me, and they want to have me for their kickoff, which is the next day. And the guy called me back yesterday. He's scared because they only get 50, 60 people. And he said, what happens, Rod, if you got 600 people show up? I said, I don't know, but he said, well, this used to be a big thing over here at Klickitat for our county fair, but they turned it over to some people that kind of run it into the ground, and they're trying to get it built back up again. But I told him, just give me your gut feeling and we'll just go with that. So the money we're asking for is going to help us get to the finish line on this. Then that got put in the grant thing without me looking at it. And I didn't know that was in it. That wasn't our intentions yet to come to you guys for any money at all for the building. So I'll say in public that that's not what I was intending to do. I'm hoping Ford Foundation has given us a $5,000 grant. We're hoping they got a list. I didn't bring it with me because I don't know how to print off my tablet. And all this information just came up in the last few days. And it shows there's about 10 different grants they're going to go after when we get to this position. So if you guys would be patient and help us get to this finish line, then we'll see what we go from there. When we do our board meetings, we methodically lay things out. We don't just jump around and, we have a system we go by. And it's all on my flip charts in our office. So we can always go back to it. And not only that, we plan our Oktoberfest, and all of our events are written out, what we're doing, who's going to do it. and, you know, what prices we have, what sponsors we got. So it's kind of fun to refer back to those flip charts. I call them flip charts. It's a, you know, you write on it, but basically we're trying to get to where we're fundable. And we have $9,000 in our account, but Oktoberfest is coming up on us fast. We have expenses, the bands, the food, different layouts. You know, we buy rifles for the event, so it takes a fair amount of cash to get going. So it's a business run.
You'd mentioned to me you were gonna do that in Ione. That's still your plan.
What's that?
You had mentioned you thought you might do that in Ione.
We might. We haven't finalized that yet. There's not a building hardly big enough to hold our Oktoberfest if it's a good year. So the Legion Hall over there is big. But again, I want to say we're regional wide. I mean, we do events.
Well, I would be more interested in that you do it economically, and you know you're gonna come out and make some money, you know, than throwing, you know, $20,000.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. That building isn't going to cost us anything.
Well, and my concern there is, aren't we trying to prove that people will come to Arlington for an event? So that's my concern is you
Where do
talk
we hold it
about
though?
all of the places that you go and in which you've established your reputation with Paradise Rose in Sherman County and Klickitat County and Morrow County and Umatilla County. But will people really come to Arlington on top of the hill for a big event
I'm sure.
on an ongoing basis?
Mhm.
You know, are people really going to be interested to bring their wedding venue? Because you talk about motels and restaurants to support you, but we really don't have motel. No. So, and we don't have RV parks that are available either. They're always full. So, you know, there's that for my concern too. Can we bring people to your building?
We've thought about that a lot, but Boardman is not too far down the road, and they get brand new hotels. One just went up, and there's, you know, the one down by the river, and we have put people up there. We got some key people that come to our event that's where we're going to try to direct them. We're not sure. We haven't finalized Ione, but like Pat's saying, we're trying to keep it simple, and that building's already got the tables and chairs in it. So there's a Gronquist, but I don't think Gronquist is going to be big enough for us. I don't think it's the noise in there with all the people in the band. It's right now it's not workable. And I'm just being honest, you know, I would rather keep it in Arlington, but I don't want to rent a tent. If you want to create a windstorm, just rent one. And we had, the first year we had a tent, we had it on the peninsula. It rained sideways and blew, and Julius and I and young guys were out there trying to stake it down because the wind would flip it up and blow some water in there. And so that wasn't a fun time either, but it was a beautiful event. And on top of that, the prime rib caught on fire. And I had the thing full, you know, on a windy day, you got to turn the heat up with the fat drip down, and I had a fire. And nothing you can do about it but shut it off. But the prime rib turned out good. It just scraped off the burn stuff.
Blackened.
It was blackened, but it was good. But, you know, getting back to Paradise Rose again, we've talked about this in meetings. I would love to give up the catering part of the Oktoberfest. We talked about it. I said, guys, I'd like to be able to meet and greet and talk and have a toddy and do what I do, but they won't let me quit doing it. And because I am that draw, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying how it is. And we've talked about it. Believe me, I just didn't have Pat do it, but is Pat going to do it for cost? I don't think so. Pat's in business.
No, I think the answer was no.
And so that's the predict. So Paradise Rose does look kind of bad that way. But I never take any money from it. And this guy is our treasurer, and he'll testify that. I'm more of a giver than a taker. And I want to talk about that just a little bit. That wasn't my notes, but for this year already, in Jefferson County, they did a thing called Raise the Floor during COVID. And they called me up and asked me if I wanted to come over and cook for it. And I said I would, and they just wanted food there. I could have kept all my own money. This was for the 4-H kids. And I get emotional. So we went over there and cooked, and I raised I got about maybe $2,000 to $3,000, and I just gave it to the kids and for the fundraiser. And the idea behind that was during COVID, some of the popular kids get a lot of money, and the unpopular, not to make it sound that way, but some kids don't get as much for their animals as the guy that owns the well drilling business or whatever it is. So they wanted to kind of level things out with the kids that don't bring as much money. So anyway, it made me feel good. I got the nicest tear-jerking thank you cards from that. I kept them all. There's probably 60 of them, and they were just well written. And I don't even have it raised the floor. And I just did an event in Grass Valley where I donated about $3,000 to that. Last week, I donated all my tip money at the car show to the chamber, and that was probably 500 plus. I never got to count it all, and I just gave that to the chamber. So those are things I do. I'm kind of I'm more of a giver than a taker.
Maybe you should have given it to the Woolery.
What's that?
Maybe you should have donated
I know,
$500 to the Woolery.
But the car show was just fabulous this year.
Yeah, it was amazing.
They had a great turnout. We
Yeah.
served 230 meals
There was a lot of cars there.
and 69 cars.
So we need to keep moving with our meetings.
Okay.
So,
I'm about done.
all right.
I don't know what else I can answer. I hope I can answer most everything.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for?
I don't think I do. I think it was a passionate presentation.
I got my heart into it, that's for sure. And I've had a good group of people that helped me. Julius has been with me for a long, long time, and my whole board's been there. Most grant people won't even look at you unless you've been together 4 years. We learned that with the Ford Foundation. So we've been together over 6. So that says something for itself. But my intentions, that got put in the grant without we wasn't going to come to you for that money. We might for some of it or part of it. We don't know. We haven't got to that part yet. I'm going to take these presentations to all the chambers around us, like Boardman and Heppner and whoever will listen to us. That we're trying to make the building, when it does go, that it will be workable. I cook a lot in Boardman, and they do most of the events at the Port of Morrill, and that building isn't big enough. We do the Christmas parties there, and every time there's a new something happened in Boardman before COVID, they'd have me come and cook because it draws people in to learn about if they're going to build a freezer building, or they're going to build this next, or they're going to do this next. So Gary Neal always had me come for the food, which brought more people in to present what he was trying to do. So that was kind of nice, but I haven't got to do much in Boardman since COVID. Of course, MAD was pretty much, I just got shut off completely. I didn't get any of my Christmas parties or a lot of stuff in Madras I didn't get to do. So I was in trouble there for a while. I couldn't pay my bills. And it was sad to see a business of my, caliber just went to nothing overnight. And I was feeding at my peak 50,000 people. I'm probably down to 20, which is fine with me. I'm going to get it down to even less. So that's where I'm headed with my life. Because I can't get any help, I just want to do what I can do on the personal side of things. At 67, and he's taking on more.
Well, we didn't say insane.
Yeah.
So I guess the question on the table today is, do we want to invest another $10,000? $10,275, which would bring us to like $51,000 invested in your project.
Well,
The term. of time.
I want to say something real quick, and maybe Joyce wants to say something, but if that helps us get to this finish line, then we can go from there. You know, we never come hardly to asking for a whole lot of money to get to this point already, and it's cost a lot of money. And it's cost a lot of our own pockets with fundraising and our own pockets. It should be a wahoo moment to see how far we've come to get to this point, I think. I'm looking for the county as cheerleaders too, to help us keep moving on and give us guidance. We need guidance. We've learned a whole lot from the top to the bottom of this. You know, the 510c3, we thought it would be easy. Pat was our leader when we went for the first one. We got a 510c4. And we didn't understand it then. Well, we went to the first windmill company. They said, we can't do nothing. We can't give them a C4. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And then that's when we started getting turned down and turned down. Reason why we were getting turned down, because the C3s were, the politicians were using it to bury money. They could use it, you know, fundraising money and bury it. And so they quit giving them out. So we learned a lot. Then, you know, it's just taking a lot of money and time to get to down here. And then we're at the last thing, except for the business plan, and that, I think it's on there, right there. But that's not done, and neither is this.
Yeah, I guess we can, go ahead.
Before we quit here, I'm Julius Courtney, and I'd like to say a little bit before we put it to you for a decision. But, you know, Rod and I sat in the bunkhouse out at his place probably 15 years ago. Him and I have been working together since about, I think, 2004, somewhere there. I helped him build the bunkhouse and redo the school. And we cooked at the state fair. We cooked at Ellensburg, served dinner at Ellensburg. Next morning at 6 o'clock, we had to be in Wasco and serve breakfast. That night, we had to be in bed, and we made it. And so he's put a lot of effort into this. He's done a great program here. And I guess I'd like to tell the court that I appreciate what you're doing, because there's been a lot of money wasted. And it's far more than just a building. You know, we talk about the Gronquist building, and we talk about the radar center and all these places that we have empty buildings. Well, there's a lot more at stake here, I think, than whether we're talking about buildings or not. Right now in Arlington, the city recorder has retired. She quit. That position is advertised. There's a recall for the mayor. Pam has the COVID, and her husband is very ill with a lot of things, and he's left because he's afraid he's going to get it. Arlington is in trouble, and it has been for quite a long time. And you took part of my speech when you said we don't have hotels. If you Google the motel, you learn a lot about it. And we've got the lower trailer court, and you folks are going to have to make a decision on that. I watched your last meeting, and if you want any information on that, I would suggest you go talk to Rob Turry at Pioneer, because we've gone through this 2 or 3 times. And, you know, I've been on a lot of different boards and things, and I did, I was on the group that did the airport plan. And I was on the group that did the Veterans Memorial. All of these things were things that were done to try to improve Arlington. Our Veterans Memorial gets no support from the Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, nothing. And it took a great lot of effort. It was all built by volunteers. You know, and I've been on all the housing studies. And it boils down that we need housing, and it has to be inexpensive housing, probably duplexes, those kind of things. And I would like to see the county court more involved in Arlington. And I appreciate Pat going to all the meetings. He's been to the health board meetings, board meetings, all of those things. I really appreciate that. But, you know, first thing you see when you drive into Arlington, if you're coming from the west, is abandoned service station. And as you leave, going out to head east, you see an abandoned restaurant. And if you come up to headed to Arlington, you see an abandoned trailer park. And that's one of the reasons that we've been so interested in the Woolery. And one of the things that the Woolery would do, I think, is help get the airport developed. If you go back to the strategic plan, the airport property up there is the most valuable property in the whole county as far as development. And what have we done? We have in situ up there, and I know a person that's up pretty well in situ, and they're getting very involved up by boardmen. So are we going to keep in situ? Does the county know what's going on with them? Are we working with the port? And, you know, those things concern me, and I think that the Woolery would help in the development of that airport. He's got a picture here at the end of the runway. Does it look like a runway? No, it looks like a great big wheat patch. And if you have a $1 million airplane to come in because you're having a meeting with the largest wind farm in the world, would you land your airplane up there? No. When the port was trying to sell rock to the railroad, those people that came to look at our rock flew in, and they couldn't land at Arlington because they didn't want to skin up their airplane, and they landed at Boardman, and I went up and got them and brought them down, took them back. And those things, I think the Woolery would be a benefit. And one thing Rod didn't mention, he goes to Fort Worth, Texas every year, and he's on a first term speaking with Red Stegall that has his own radio program. And we are thinking about bringing in those Western artists when they're on tour and get them to stop there, put on programs, those kind of things. And I would like to see you folks devote a little more time to helping Arlington. And Catherine Griner is new on the port, and I hope she'll do some great things. At one time, the port came to the county court, and we proposed that we redo the railroad. Rather than coming out down on the creek, it would head off to the north and come out right at the top of the hill where you drop down into Woolery Creek. And it was turned down. It was not necessary. Now, if you Google transportation or whatever that title is, it shows that road because the windmill companies put it in. And I got a hold of Catherine, and she's supposed to go with me and look at that road. And, you know, you have this program with the port. You have to approve any program that the port puts on. And I think that's really good. And I think that needs to be looked at really hard, because that would make all the motels and those things from Boardman and up there more accessible to things like the windmill or the Woolery windmill. And it would also be a straight shot for all those great big long props for the windmills that are coming through. The road has a couple of little crooks in it, but it's a pretty good road. I've been through on it. And if you have been down there when they're trying to bring some of that big equipment in on low boys through Arlington, they get there by the motel, it takes them 45 minutes to make that turn because it's so sharp. And so that road would really help the airport. It helps the Woolery. It's just, I think, a good project.
Well, we need to kind of move it on, you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for our time.
Thank you.
I'd like one little quick note here, if I could. My theory is Arlington is the way it is, and it's not bad, but it could be better. But the movement of the town really killed Arlington, and that's all we refer to. It's in the Port of Arlington's offices. It used to be at the Pheasant, and that was the most horrid part of anybody's life. If you look at the pictures at the port, it shows buildings being blown up and smoke and dust and crap. And that really hurt the town really bad. The next thing Arlington doesn't have is any heritage at all. It's all underwater or burnt or gone. There's no old things that we have to refer back to, and that's what the Woolery is going to do. And we have no big places together that's suitable yet. And the Woolery got started mainly when Kevin Johnson got killed. We did that fundraiser at Rock Creek Schoolhouse, and we set up big army tents, and we did all kinds of stuff. We raised $37,000 that day. And then the next year, Rosenbaum's house burnt down. I was on that committee. We raised $25,000 that day. And then Denise Proctor died, or she wasn't dead yet, but she was going to. So every year there's been a thing, and it was a struggle to put on. And that's another reason for the Woolery is for those kind of things and funerals. And the heritage part is huge. We're missing it. I understand, I've never gone to see it yet, but the stagecoach mail wagons in Long Beach, Washington. And why isn't it still here? All the cool things are not here. And some things from Arlington are in this up here at the museum, but we're trying to get this part where we're kind of building a museum type thing. And I come up with a couple sayings for Arlington. I'm trying to make Arlington a better place And these are slogans, one's on my hat and the other one's better together and together better. And that is to hopefully bring people together to do things. You know, we need to work closer together with the city councils, to the county court, to the port. All of us kind of need to push each other along on this stuff. And that's all I got to say. I know we're taking up your time, but we appreciate your time. I'm glad we got this time to talk no matter what the outcome is. But we're hoping to get to the finish line, then we'll go from there. And anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
I could go on for hours.
Yes.
Lot of passion, lot of passion.
We know.
Commissioners.
Will I be interrupting you if I keep?
No, go ahead.
Go
No,
ahead.
Go ahead, you're fine.
I guess I'm under the understanding, Rod, you listening to this too, that this would be the last ask until you can get some things in place that look like you're moving forward with the actual building. I think it's important, to me anyway, to see some development up in that Mesa area and see some stuff start to happen. You can make that motion. We don't have anything else. The Flex building is no longer an empty building. Has not been for some time. Like to chat about the other day. So really we're down to the lab building. We have those conversations, and that's the one that's left out there. But for keeping this thing going with the idea that we're not going to fund the whole thing, probably need to see some more. On their part, their side, their investment, what they get moving forward. I think that for $10,275, it's
Let me carry it all down.
Would you like to make a motion?
I move to award fiscal year 2021, 2022 Gilliam special projects grant to the Woolery in the amount of $10,275 and authorize the county to prepare and execute a grant agreement reflecting the terms and conditions discussed.
And I'm going to second on the grounds that we've already invested $40,000. And if this is the last ask for this type of a grant, then if we're the roadblock to continue to make it happen, then that would, to me, that would be it wouldn't be in our best interest. So I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we award a fiscal year 2021-2022 North Gilliam Special Projects Grant to the Woolery in the amount of $10,275 and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute a grant agreement reflecting the terms and conditions discussed. Is there further discussion? I will say that I still have concerns about the long-term plan for this. So
I think we'll.
yeah. So I will be a no today, but I do want to just state for the record that that should not be a reflection. I love the passion that this group is bringing. I love the ideas that they're bringing. I think that's what's needed in Arlington, but I would like to see more progress before the county puts more money in.
And some structure.
Yeah, so I just wanted to provide that kind of context that my no vote should not be taken as not supporting of the project. I just would like to see them further along before we put additional county money in. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. The motion carries. All right. We'll get a grant agreement out to them. And how are you guys doing? We need a break?
I could use a quick one.
Okay, let's do a quick 2-3 minute break and we'll come right back. All right. Got my commissioners back and let's go into 5.2, which is consider approvals of proposal for design engineering services for countywide broadband system and engineering and related services contracts. So we have Adam on Zoom, but I will just kick this off. As a reminder, during our April 7th meeting, we agreed to move forward with preparing a request for proposals for design and engineering services. We hired Adam Hass with Rabbit Communications to provide us with some technical assistance in putting together and distributing the RFP. And so Adam, Carrie Connolly, who is our procurement attorney, and I have been working together to finalize and issue that. It was issued on June 30th with the closing date of June 28th. We received 4 proposals, and I'll sort of, I think, kick it over to Adam to sort of walk through what that process looks like, sort of where we are right now, and kind of an impression on the 4 proposals that we got in, and then we can go from there. Adam, take it away.
Can you hear me now?
Can.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to say I feel really good about this process. It actually took a lot more effort than I think we recognized, but I feel really good about the outcome to this point in time. As a telecommunications consultant, I've been on both sides of the process of both responding to requests for proposals and writing them. And one of the things we wanted to make sure, absolutely sure, and Carrie Connolly helped us with this for sure, is that this was an absolutely fair process, a level playing field for all interested parties, and I feel confident that we achieved that. We threw the net out wide in terms of wanting to get as many proposals as we could through advertising, word of mouth, and other means. As Elizabeth has said, we got 4 proposals back. I actually know there were 2 other firms that were interested but did not apply. One because they were too busy, and another because they didn't like the notion of the lump sum all-in cost, and so they declined to submit on that. All 4 proposals were from qualified candidate firms, and I feel like we've got, like I say, quality firms who have responded. I should also mention that we did some initial review of the proposals by some resident experts. Duke Dexter from Clackamas County Fiber Project, Pam Birian from the city of Eugene, who oversees their fiber projects. They read the proposals and provided input. I read the proposals and provided input to the Fiber Council. We didn't actually score the proposals, but we gave our expert impressions of the proposals. So then the 4 proposals, as your packet indicated, and as Elizabeth mentioned, those 4 proposals went to the Fiber Council for review. They were scored by the Fiber Council. And then, as a part of the process, all 4 candidates were interviewed. And I think we all agreed it was a very productive process. I think the Fiber Council learned some good things. It was so interesting to see people, quote unquote, in person on Zoom, because the proposal doesn't always express what those folks, how they present themselves, and do they really understand the project. So we then, the Fiber Council decided that the top 3 scoring firms should advance to consideration by you, the county court. And in our RFP, that's the total number of firms that the RFP said would be advanced to the next stage. And the next stage is the scoring of the cost proposals. We really didn't want cost to influence in the initial evaluations. We wanted to look at who are the best firms. And so those firms were scored based on qualifications and the interviews. And then we asked for the cost proposals, which were delivered to me and then from me to the county court. As your packet indicates, we have the three firms, Midstate, Comstructure, and CNE. What's interesting in the price spread between the three is that two were very close to each other and one was a lot higher. And in my experience, what that usually indicates is that we did a pretty good job at scoping out the project. When you have two firms that are coming so close together, it means that they were using the same data, making the same assumptions, and they probably had about the same cost structure. CNE was quite a bit higher, and they're more remote for one thing. And it looked to me just on first reading that their rates were higher than the others. So where we're at right now is this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. You have the three top candidate firms. All of them are highly qualified. I have no reservations about any three of these firms. They've now submitted the pricing, and so now it's up to the county court as to how you want to proceed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point if there are any. And thank you.
So just to capture the Fiber Council in their interviews did the scoring. The scores are in your packet. Comstructure was their top pick. The second one was CNE, then Midstates, then Danella. Danella was the one that was eliminated in that round. So you have the pricing for Midstate, Comstructure, and CNE in your packet. What Carrie would tell us if she was here is that price cannot account for any more than 10% of the final evaluation. And so these guys are probably close enough that if it was a huge difference, the cost might play a factor, but I'm not sure that it actually will, based on who the Fiber Council thought was the top pick. So that you guys know kind of how we envisioned this was that the consultant is going to give us sort of this high level picture of how to deliver internet service to all of our households. So whether that's a wireless solution, a fiber solution, or a combination, and also give us a rough order of magnitude. Here's what I think it'll cost to get there. And then, so if we should decide based on those budget numbers that, hey, we're ready to pull the trigger on actually building the network, then the idea would be hopefully that whichever firm is successful would be the consultant to do that engineering work for us and to actually do the more detailed plan to map out how this new network will look in the county. Does that make sense?
Yeah, did I miss in the packet what the businesses thought the total cost would be? Is it in there?
So that's what we'll be getting from this.
Oh, okay.
Is once they have a chance to actually look and talk to, they've been sort of put on notice that we're going to be connecting them with Columbia Basin, Home Telephone, Arlington TV Co-op to get a sense of what assets are out there. And so I think they really won't get a clear idea of the scope until they can talk to all of the partners and kind of get a sense of what's already there and where the gaps are.
Sure. So this was an interesting process.
Yeah.
Very detailed, lengthy.
So when you, just for an example, so when you evaluate the experience with rural broadband projects as a council, what was that like? Just give me a quick one.
So most of all four of them kind of talked about different projects, but we were looking for, and I think Comstructure in particular had some experience with some of our neighbors and has a lot of Oregon experience in particular. And so I think that's why they were scored particularly high. But basically we were looking for and asked about projects that were comparable in density. And so when we were talking about rural, I think even one of the committee members asked, define what rural looks like during one of the, and so because we were trying to get a sense from people like, when we say rural, do you mean Pendleton? Or do you, you know, or do you mean Condon kind of thing? I mean, we know from living here that some of what people consider rural is not, by our standards, really rural. And so we were really trying to get to what does the density look like? And so the top scorers in here were the ones who had projects that were more comparable to what they would find
So
here.
I guess I'm curious about is, so you arrive at a score of 86, 87, whatever. What formula did you use to get to a number that's?
I can provide that information if you like, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Also, we had a great question. We had a scoring sheet, and we weighted the different categories that we were scoring. That is the Fiber Council. So there were a total of 7 areas. One was experience with rural broadband projects. We gave that a 25% weight because we really felt like, as Elizabeth said, that was key. You know, we're not Portland, it's, you know, not Pendleton, etc. So then the second category was success with similar projects, which kind of dovetails with the rural broadband projects. If it's similar, it better be rural. We gave that 15%. Project understanding. We had a, we had a very detailed RFP. Plus, we had a pre-proposal meeting where we really outlined what it is that you folks were looking for. Again, the first stage, just do a high-level engineering look at what this might cost. And then the second stage would be actual implementation. And we were, I know Elizabeth was very focused on, we want to have a firm that can do both phase 1 and phase 2 if you decide to go to phase 2. So we're not switching horses mid-race. You've got the same firm, better have the capability and capacity to actually design, to do a detailed design and manage a construction project, as well as do the more high-level conceptual design. So that was project understanding at 15%. Project methodology at 15%. That means like, okay, so how are you going to do this? Great, you have a good concept of this project, you have great background. Literally, how are you going to do it? What's step 1, step 2? 5% weighting went to familiarity with local, state, and federal regulations. That'll be really important if you decide to go to phase 2, the actual construction. And then resources and staff for related services and adhering to the schedule. That was 5%. That's like, okay, you want to do the project, we give it to you. We don't want to find out that you don't have enough staff right now because you're so busy on other projects. And then the interviews themselves were 10 percentage points, which left another 10% for cost. And that's how that all broke out. And that was the rationale we used in how each candidate firm was evaluated. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I'm just curious on how you get to a score of 87. You know what?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I probably missed that. And right. Elizabeth, I mean, I can explain it or you can, either way.
Yeah, you can, go ahead, you can take it.
Basically, we just summarize the scores of each score from each person on the Fiber Council. We just summarize the scores by category. So each individual, couldn't give up, more than 15 points to like similar projects. But we consolidated and added them together. I produced a spreadsheet so we could, and Catherine Greiner was the one who's managing this all, kind of supporting the Fiber Council. So she put this all in a spreadsheet. It summarized it into these total scores. And so that's how you come up with those numbers.
There's four Fiber Council members that scored.
And they scored like so they're scoring on 25%, they're scoring 1 to 25. Is that okay?
Right?
I got it.
Exactly. And it looks something, the scoring sheets. Oh, I don't think you can see that. Oh well, that didn't work. The scoring are a matrix. And by the way, this is truth in advertising. I'm in the valley. I have another background which shows cows out in Gilliam County, but I just, this is truthfully, I'm out in the Portland area, so that's why I have this background. Just in case you wondered.
We appreciate trees.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, I will say, I just wanted to echo what Adam said, like the Fiber Council felt like the three names that they were forwarding, all three, we felt could do a good job. I think we would be in good hands with all of them. If we wanted to move forward, I mean, my sense looking at the scoring plus the pricing is probably that structure is probably the first choice based on that combination.
Yes.
And so based on that, if we wanted to move forward, we would need to accept the proposal. And then in your packet was the engineering and related services contract. That was actually released as part of the RFP at Carrie's encouragement, so that we don't have to go back and forth and negotiate the actual contract. We'll just have to go in and fill in the amounts and all of those that came in the proposal, but that contract that's in your packet would be the contract with the successful firm. And that way our folks who submitted a proposal knew what they were getting into when they submitted it, our expectation.
And by the way, excuse me, if they had any problems with the agreement, obviously they would bring it up during their proposal. That was the time to bring up those issues, again, to not slow down this process.
Yeah. So if we were looking to move forward, then I would just need a motion to accept the proposal, and then to authorize me to go ahead and finalize and execute the contract, and then we would get started.
Well, I move to accept the proposal from Comstructure Consulting LLC in the amount of up to $39,213 for design and engineering services for the countywide broadband system project, and to authorize the county judge to finalize and execute the engineering and related services contract.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the proposal from Comstructure Consulting LLC in the amount of up to $39,213 for design and engineering services for the countywide broadband system project, and to authorize the county judge to finalize and execute the engineering and related services contract. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And I see we have Eric on there. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you very much. It's great news. Excited to be a part of the project and look forward to working with everybody.
Awesome. I will circle back with you and figure out next steps.
Great. Thanks so much.
I might add that Eric's office is in Oregon City, so he's truly local in Oregon. So,
but my plows in Eastern Oregon, Central Oregon.
Awesome. Okay, we'll follow up and get the contract over to you, Eric, and then we'll work on next steps.
Great. Thanks so much. Again, thank you everybody for the opportunity to participate in this process. And I think we have a lot of value added engineering that we can contribute. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Adam, any last things before we wrap up? I just want to thank you for helping us through. As the commissioners see, it was a very thorough, thoughtful process. And I'm really excited that we're moving forward.
Me too. And thanks for everyone's support. It was a more complicated process than I thought it would be, but I feel really good with the outcome, and wish you all the best in this engineering project. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye, Eric.
All right. Look forward to working with you.
Commissioners, on in terms of paying for it, we have got a sizable economic development projects amount that's sitting there. We also have our ARPA funds that can be used for it. Do you have a preference on where you want those dollars to come from?
How much do we have in ARPA funds?
I think about 370.
Is that part of the next item? That's the funding we're talking about as part of the next item?
Yeah. I mean, we could take it from economic development if we wanted to. And I think, I don't have the budget in front of me, but I think we have about maybe 3.5 million sitting in that economic
Yeah, I
development.
think for
account.
this, maybe this phase of it,
Yeah.
that's maybe what we should
Yeah,
do, but
economic development.
we don't want to get in there for the whole
Right.
deal. I mean, I hope we get
Some, yeah.
federal funding coming in that supports broadband.
Well,
That's
they're
my
talking
hope,
about
too.
it, so hopefully they stop talking and do something.
Yeah. And hopefully, but this plan that the consultant will help us with should help us actually hopefully be in the queue for some federal.
To get those monies.
Yeah, I think for 40,000, I'm good with it coming on the
Yeah.
economic
Okay, great.
development side.
Speaking of ARPA funds, let's go into 6.1, which is discussion on AOC opportunity for investment of county ARPA funds. I just wanted to put this on the agenda. We received a letter from Melissa Cribbins, who's the president of AOC, with 2 potential investment opportunities. One's a community water needs forum that didn't seem as relevant given how active SWC already is on water needs for us. But I did want to raise that there's a local housing technical assistance program and to see if there was any interest in participating in it. Or if we want to do our
So
own
what
thing.
was your comment again on the water that you said?
So my feeling on the water side is that I think Soil and Water Conservation District has been pretty proactive in talking about our watersheds and so I'm not sure if the Water Needs Forum is going to be as.
Water needs for a city?
It doesn't, I mean, I think they're looking at multiple.
But the reason I say that is that Arlington does know that they have some stuff. They have a timeline, and we talked about it in the last meeting. And if I remember the numbers correctly, they've got 3,500 gallons per minute in water rights coming out of Columbia, of which they're using 1,200. And it's going to take some significant funding they have a timeline, and they've got some time, but they have a timeline when that has to be used. And just in growth alone, they're gonna have to do something out there. So, and we talked about what could the county do and Shelter involved in all that. So I don't know if that falls under that, but I'm also a little concerned about the cost of what it is to do this with AOC. When you're only looking at 300,000, you could spend in 2 years $100,000 of our 300,000 ARPA funds, and you know, is that I don't know that that's good math.
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what it would cost us $25,000 per year
Yeah,
to
but it's gotta
have the
be spent by
AOC
the
help
end of-
us
It's gotta be spent by
by the end
22.
of 22, yeah.
And so it's probably gonna drive, they're probably gonna get you twice. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean,
What
I
do you
don't,
think? Yeah.
I don't have a firm, yes, we should do it. I just didn't want to say, no, we shouldn't, or say no to Melissa without checking with you two first.
Well, my
So-
only thinking was, collaboration is always a good process for, everybody has the same problem with housing. If we collaborate with other counties through this program, is that going to help us with our housing
Here's
issue?
the
Or-
issue I have with the 25.
Or is this really gonna be of any asset to us?
The issue I've got is we've got 1,800 people. We're only gonna get $300,000. So we gotta spend 25,000 to send us Multnomah County. Does that make sense? Because they're gonna get millions. Am I reading all that correctly?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not sure that the water forms would address the Arlington issue, just reading kind of what they think the outcomes would be. Because they're talking about 3 separate water needs forums will be held in each participating county. Training for commissioners to serve as conveners or co-conveners.
Purpose of water needs forums to identify economic, environmental, and social water needs in communities around the state. I would think that would address local city water, but
It might, but I would want to talk to Herb and see Herb Winters and see what they already have at SWCD.
well,
Because they do a lot of work in this space on water needs.
has anybody reached out to Andy Smith?
I have not.
I could do that. I mean, I don't think we want to do anything with it right now, but in my opinion, but
Yeah,
I mean, I sure wouldn't vote to say, yeah, that's just based on the sheer numbers of population in counties, and they haven't made it so that the dollars to participate are equivalent to population.
yeah, I'm thinking,
You're thinking not.
I'm thinking not.
I kind of am too, but I'm not.
Okay, so how about this? We do a little bit more due diligence. The other thing I might just reach out to is ask Melissa, like, what's the timeline for this?
Yeah.
Is this something we could revisit in a few months if we decided, you know what, actually, maybe this could apply? I don't
If
know.
we get some more information, it looks like it's gonna benefit us
Yeah,
$25,000 worth.
but it's a pretty big,
Yeah. Chunk of our,
Chunk of what we get.
right.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think you're right. They'll probably want it for both years. So the rest of this year and next year. You're looking to plug their budget. in
It's really,
different ways,
it's really
so.
designed, I think, to help AOC with their budget.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's creative, I'll give them that, but I'm not sure at this point that we need,
Support them more than we are.
well, that we need what they're offering at that level of investment, I think, you know? So, I mean, it's almost 2.5 times our dues. That's what they're asking for out of this, so. Okay, with that, let's move into announcements and next meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for August 18th. That will be in Arlington. Leah Shannon also reached out to me yesterday about trying to get the port and court together to start talking about a joint project. And so we were kicking around the idea of meeting in the afternoon on the 18th, but I wanted to make sure that that would work for your guys' schedules.
It is for mine. Yes.
Okay. I think the 18th is going to be a robust meeting. So we might aim for like 3-ish so that we have enough time to do the executive session that I'm sure Diane is going to tell us we'll need, and maybe take a little lunch break before we start in with the port. So does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will get back to Leah and Sherry. What do you have going on?
I did speak with Dan Lawler. We discussed about the well issue at Shuttler Station and our equipment on waste management property, and we're going to put together some information to take back to waste management and see if we can do easement.
Great.
So that'll be coming to us. He thought he could have something ready by the end of the week that we could look at, and then once we look at it, then we'll take it to waste management.
Great.
Propose it to them. So, I was interested in the economic summit in Hermiston towards the end of the month. I'm gonna kind of see what's going on in Umatilla County and their COVID issues, but that would be also during our next NOR core meeting. So we'll see what happens there, but I really wanted to go to that and go to the housing portion of there too, or on Thursday. So we'll see what happens there. And that's about it. Still working, the revitalization committee still working. We haven't been that.
Awesome. Pat, what about you?
Well, I went to the port meeting on the 21st. And stuff was discussed. I don't know many details in the executive session. They did say that they have some minor changes to the IGA that Ruben kind of acted like it wasn't a big deal. I don't know. They named a couple of projects in the Painted Hills and this energy company that's looking at doing quite a few different things in the North End. And then I met with Painted Hills, Catherine and Jeff from the port and Jeff Schott at the Chamber of Condon on Tuesday the 27th. And kind of visited a lot about where Painted Hills is and where they're going. I've been a lot of discussion. They lost the project manager. They slowed the process down. I think he maybe left because it wasn't going as fast as he wanted it to. Morrill County's dangling the carrot pretty good to him, but they would rather be in Gilliam County. And so we've set some guidelines on how to move forward, get them to move forward and do some things so that see if it's like a viable thing for Gilliam County. Which I mean, I think if they get to that point and they want to move, it's still a really good project. The equipment purchase with, I've had a few legal issues lately trying to run attorneys down there on vacation, and ones that went to the Justice Department that I forgot about. But on the WI equipment, I gave Dewey the proposed purchase agreement Monday afternoon. And I'm not sure when he will get in front of WI with it. She couldn't even find the name of WI's company to put in the agreement. So there's some stuff that needs to be plugged into that agreement. And he had to, I know, pave all day yesterday. I was hoping to get finished, but thought he probably wouldn't finish until today. So it's kind of tied up in his nose through that. And then also we got hung up really bad because of the name of the Department of Justice. Christie. And I was reaching out to her. She had passed it on to Lisa. Lisa had been on vacation, and that road use agreement for Brookfield on the repower is getting really, really close to me to be in place because they want to hold on the 16th of August. So I finally got that from Laura with her suggestions to send, or at least with her suggestions to send to, and I sent it to Jared and Brookfield. They have it now. They'll run it back to their legal again. We should have it soon.
Okay.
Don't know why we're spending so much money changing the name contractor to wind company operator in an agreement 5 or 6 times. It's what they suggested. Primarily that was the difference in the 2 agreements, but you know, anyhow, it's in the works.
Okay.
And then North Central's next Tuesday, and I'm probably going to go to John Day on Monday to the UAC meeting at John Day. And Cliff Mintz is supposed to be here on the 10th for a town hall. Ron Wyden was supposed to, or his staff was supposed to do a question and answer deal on the River Democracy Act in Pendleton on the 10th, and they've all pulled out on anything to do with talking to UAC counties. So I don't know.
Well, the staff didn't want to speak for
Ron.
So
they pulled completely out of that, got canceled. So they're willing to meet with counties individually, but they don't want to meet with the group. There we are.
All right. Let me see if I've got anything other than those joint meeting. Let me see. Oh, I did submit the letter to the director of the Water Resources Department to for reconsideration on our permit. So that got mailed off to them. I have not heard anything back at this point. It can help me with that.
We made that deadline.
We did make the deadline. I also reached out to the directors of MCED and GEODC about us possibly transferring over. Both were open to at least bringing it to their boards. And so the MCED executive board is meeting this afternoon at 4, and I'm planning on listening into that because they have a Zoom link to get their initial reading on that. So both Susan and Jessica, the directors for each of those districts, said that they would get back in touch once they took a temperature of their boards to see whether their boards would be open to us transferring. And if so, it's a very lengthy process to transfer. It's not, I don't think it's difficult. It's just, we have to pass a resolution. Each of the boards has to agree to it. We have to get letters from both governors because we're going over to MCED, which has Washington states, counties in it. So both governors need to approve of it. It's a lengthy process, but I don't think it's insurmountable, assuming that both boards agree that they want us, or one wants to get rid of us. As the case were.
Take us.
As the case were. Let me see what else I've got.
Neither one of us.
Right?
Yes. Other than that, I think those are the big ticket items for now. I think that is all I have. So with that, we are going to move into an executive session. And so I will just say for the record, for everybody on here, that we are done with the agenda for our regular session. So we're going to go into executive session. We'll come back out just to adjourn. But for folks who are here thinking they want to see excitement, we're done. With the excitement.
I think everybody left the city with.
Yes, we're done for the excitement today. So with that, we'll go into an executive session in accordance with ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Before I read this, actually, you know what, I'm going to read this first and then I'll declare my conflict. The Gilliam County Court will now
Would you close the door as you go out, Stephen?
Thanks, Steve. The Gilliam County Court will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602D, which allows the court to meet in executive session to consider information to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Representatives of the news media, which he just left, and designated staff will be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to vacate the courtroom. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to the audience in the public virtual meeting room. And again, I say that our agenda is done for today, so we will not have any further decisions made by the court. We'll just come out to adjourn. The other piece that I need to do is to declare a conflict of interest. As I've stated before, my dad is a union member. And so my job is just to open and close. I will not be participating, and I'll state my conflict in the executive session as well. So with that, we'll have Lisa take us into the Okay, so we are back in. It's 12:32, and I will adjourn the meeting.